All right, everyone, welcome back to a very special episode of Coffee and Pedals. As usual, I've got myself here, Jonathan.
And as usual, you have myself here, Josh.
And today we have a special guest. We have Noah Baker joining us, who is sales rep for Yorkville Sound.
You got it.
Sound, which they just distribute in Canada, all kinds of cool stuff. What we're looking at today specifically is Universal Audio. Thanks for joining us, Noah.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Really looking forward to going through these with you guys.
Yeah, we're excited. This is cool.
Woo, we're in for a whole world of knobs and toggles and buttons. This is,
We got about 4 pedals. We got about 6, 12, 18, 24 knobs.
Dang.
We got about 12 switches.
That's quick math.
But we're going to make it all seem much simpler than it looks.
Thank God.
So Universal Audio, maybe just a little backstory. So Universal Audio, they've been in the recording sort of side of things for a very long time, right?
Yeah, so actually since, I believe it's the late 1950s or early 1960s. In fact, many of the earliest compressors and limiting amplifiers were developed by Universal Audio.
Yeah, like the LA2A and stuff like that.
You got it. That's
Super
kind
famous
of what
stuff.
started
Yeah.
it all. And nowadays, known actually far more for things like their digital recording products, things like the Universal Audio Apollo. More recently, more consumer-friendly products like what we're plugged in here today with the Universal Audio Volt.
Yeah.
And then, in 2018, they came up with this genius idea. What if we had a box you can put on top of your amplifier, and it just gave you all the sounds after your amplifier? And they called it the aux box.
The aux.
Oh,
Totally
yeah.
amp top box.
I bought one myself, sight unseen, as soon as it was announced, and it was possibly the single best purchase I ever made. And after that, they've realized that they are really, really good at guitar gear. And so not too long after that, they started getting into pedals. And so what we're checking out today now is 4 of their currently released amp simulation pedals.
Yeah.
Now they do a bunch of pedals, so a lot of them are effects pedals, like traditional effects like reverb, delay, modulation.
Yeah.
That you would plug your guitar into your amp like normal. But these are a little different, right? These are amp simulation pedals.
You've got it. So a lot of people say the words amp in a box, and that can be a little bit of a buzzword. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. These are amp in a box in the sense of the whole signal chain of the amplifier, the finished studio product, is in this box.
So this is like your amp, this is your speaker, this is everything.
Oh yeah, amp, speaker, microphones. You've even got some built-in effects based on each amplifier, built-in room sounds. Basically, the whole thing is polished and done inside this pedal.
It's like some Willy Wonka stuff. How'd you shrink them down so small?
Right? The magic of digital.
Wow. What a time to be alive.
And so,
Awesome.
so these, I think there's a lot of maybe people don't know quite how to use these because these are not intended to be used like a regular like overdrive pedal or delay pedal or something like that. It's sort of a different, maybe not necessarily doesn't go on your pedal board with all your other pedals. This is a little more specific in its use, right?
Well, so this could actually totally go on your pedal board, but it might go in a little bit of a different place than, say, your traditional amp in a box pedal, where you might put that kind of amongst your overdrive pedals. These are not fundamentally overdrives.
Yeah.
These are a full amp. So the way you could think of this, for example, the way that I think a lot of people would use these are putting that at the end of your pedal chain, basically allowing them to be the platform for the rest of your pedal board. But as we're going to talk about today, there's actually a number of different ways that you can use them. They don't necessarily strictly have to be an all-in-one amp simulator. You can actually totally plug them into an amplifier of many different kinds. We'll get a little bit creative with it, but
I think we've got a bunch of things lined up to plug them into, test them out, sort of give the audience some real-world examples of how you can use these and get the most out of them.
totally.
Cool. Well, let's dig into these and take a look at what we got here. So we got 4 different pedals. Each one is its own amp that it's modeling, just one specific amp, right?
You've got it. So basically, the way that Universal Audio decided to go was rather than do one pedal that does a whole bunch of different amplifiers, Universal Audio decided to go with separate pedals, each of which are focusing their entire set of DSP into one amplifier at a component
Quick
level.
question for the uninitiated. What does DSP stand for?
Digital signal processing.
Oh, see, there you go, guys. Aren't you glad I asked?
Here's hoping I actually
was-
got that right. I am just a knuckle dragging guitar player. But,
I thought it was darn stupid poop.
It works for me.
and so basically, they decided to go with individual pedals in this case because at a component level, they can model every little nuance
Right.
of each of these amplifiers, which we'll get into a little bit
Okay,
today.
cool.
So what you're looking at here is the Dream. The Dream, the Woodrow,
That's awesome.
the Ruby, and the Lion.
Okay, let's see that.
Can we do that again? The dream.
The timing of that couldn't have been
It didn't
better.
work.
Meditation bells over there. I think we can. Weird.
The dream.
Ah, dang.
I just don't have the right touch.
No.
Okay.
Okay, back to.
As we were.
So the Dream, the Woodrow, the Ruby, and the Lion,
Yeah.
each one of which is a totally different amp. So the Dream, you can kind of think of that as your 65 reverb-ish amplifier.
Right.
Fender Deluxe Reverb.
You can't
You've
say
got the
Fender.
idea.
We're
I
allowed
said it.
to say
It's
it.
been said.
Yeah.
For the Woodrow there, you've got a 1955 instrument amplifier, which would actually be a little bit of a different variation of the Deluxe thing, more of a tweed kind of thing.
Ah.
It's like the 5E3
You've
Tweedy
got it.
sound.
That classic tone. And then to the left of that, you've then got the Ruby there, which is based more on a 60s sort of British chimey kind of amplifier.
Okay, I get what you're laying down there.
Vox.
And then you've
So you
got
could
the-
say maybe we've just jumped across the pond here?
you
Oh.
could say we've just jumped across the pond.
It's a pretty small pond.
And then one more jump, you've got the Lion there, which is kind of based on a super lead.
Super
Ah,
And
I wonder
it
what that could
purrs,
be.
it growls, it roars, and it does everything in between.
Right.
And so yeah, that's kind of a basic overview of what we're looking at today. But now, if you guys want, we'll just jump right into getting some
Yeah,
tones.
let's hear them.
I thought we'd
Totally.
just talk about it and not actually.
Oh yeah, you don't.
All right, so that's the show, everybody. Thanks
Yeah.
for watching.
Right?
Okay, there we go.
We just look at them, right? That's the show.
Don't even touch them.
Let's get some sounds here. So to start off, let's talk about what we're plugged into.
Right.
So we got the pedals all on a chain here, plugged into the interface.
Running into a Universal Audio Volt 476. So this is an interface that's plugged directly into my computer here, running into GarageBand.
Oh, just
Sweet.
GarageBand, eh?
Just GarageBand.
Simple as that.
Nothing fancy.
Wow.
I've already hit the record button and everything. And what you were going to
So the audience is hearing that sound. Right
You've
now.
got it direct into the computer is exactly what they're hearing.
And we are going to get to other sounds later in the room here with some different amps and setups. But for the moment, you are hearing the direct sound coming out of this.
Totally.
There we go.
Right on,
Nothing
right
else.
on.
Perfect.
So feel
All right.
free to
Let's,
start playing away. I
which-
think
Which one?
I got a hair on my guitar here.
Oh,
I
no.
can't do that. All right.
Send it back.
Yeah,
Send
boo.
it back. Come on.
Come on, Fender.
Are we on? Oh, there. That sounds like. that's
Okay, I can hear some stuff there.
Here we go.
So we should be hearing some Fender-ish kind of tones here. All right, that
So
very
that's-
much.
amazing.
So that's pretty much just straight up amp, but it's also got some reverb and tremolo in there too that we can dial in if we wanted, right?
You've got it. So basically what
right
we're
now,
running right now,
reverb's off. Is it?
you've got it. So I've basically kind of run everything kind of close-ish to noon right about here.
Good way to start.
Exactly. And straight out the gate, honestly, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with that sound. But like I was mentioning, these pedals actually model a couple of the different things that these amps are capable of. So if we get right into it, we can start with the reverb here, which is based on the famous 65
So
reverb.
it is.
awesome.
It's very springy for sure.
Very
It is
reverby.
every bit as drippy and springy as you would ever want a spring reverb to sound.
You're telling
It's-
me there's not an actual spring in that pedal.
That's one thing I kind of wish that they did, is if we were
Would
just
be
rocking
sick,
it.
Yeah, can we
back
shake
and
it?
forth, would,
Yeah.
But
Kick it and it
it
goes
doesn't.
boing.
Unfortunately, it doesn't have a built-in gyro. Maybe on the version 2. I don't know.
Version 2.
But yeah, I mean, all we've really done so far is move one knob.
Wow.
And that's something that I find kind of cool about these, is that unlike most amp modeling type devices, it's not hard to get a great sound out of these.
No.
I mean,
It
they're
looks pretty straight ahead, just a few knobs, and I mean
that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
Everything is
everything
laid
kind
out.
of new, and it's pretty good. How does it feel like when you're playing?
It's weirdly like very responsive, because I feel like there is a deluxe reverb like right beside me. It kind of tricks you in a weird way. It's got that sort of like, I know the word bloom is usually associated with this guy, but like it has that tube feel to it.
Very interesting.
It is interesting. It sounds full. It sounds like a wooden box that's reverberating as well, which is part of what an amp is. So this is doing a good job. I am immediately fairly impressed.
Now, from where I'm sitting, I don't see knobs for the tremolo. How do we access the tremolo?
Oh,
So this is pretty simple, actually. Hopefully, the audience will be able to see it from our eye in
Yeah.
the sky there. But we've got a little
Big
switch
brother.
in the middle here. And this switch in the middle does a couple of things. So first off, set in the middle here, you may be able to see that there is an amp section. So when we're in the
Okay.
amp section, the effective controls are what's right down here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, if you switch up into alt mode here, you may be able to see there is a speed and intensity that are kind of light gray labeled,
Oh, okay.
just like alt
Oh, yeah.
is light
Yeah.
So
gray
that's your
labeled.
tremolo control.
Now we are controlling the
Just
tremolo.
like on the amp.
Exactly.
Speed and depth.
Really?
I'm going to turn up intensity here a little bit to about
Okay.
noon, and turn speed to about noon, and let's see what we got.
That's immediate. Boy, if that ain't tremolo.
Definitely a number of ways you can use that.
And
It's,
are we hearing this in stereo right now? too?
Yes, you are correct.
Ooh.
Because
So
once that tremolo kicked in, it seemed to really widen up.
totally. So we've plugged everything here in stereo into the interface, just so that you guys can kind of get the full effect of what these are capable of.
Do you know, is it actually like slightly different on the left and the right to give that stereo feel?
Well,
Or
so
is it just like split down the middle?
So the tremolo itself in the amp is actually mono, and I believe that the effect here is also mono, but what's creating the sense of space is that actually every one of these is using cab simulation that's derived from the aux box. It's a very, very nuanced cab modeling system. It's not based on impulse responses. It is fully modeled from the ground up, including stereo room microphones, which is quite different, of course, from using like a room reverb, which is
Yeah.
applying something to your source sound. The room microphones are the source sound. So you do get a bit of a sense of space when you're plugged in stereo. Just like being in the room with your amplifier. Like if you had headphones on with this and you just closed your eyes, you'd almost imagine you're in the room with the amplifier.
It's
dialing
transportive.
up. Totally.
So this is getting like the amp sound, the speaker sound, the cabinet sound, and the mics that are miking it up in the room.
Exactly.
Wow.
And in fact, each one of the cab models on here, which we can flip through if you'd like, each one of them has a different setup of microphones. If you actually go into the user manual for each of these, you can see exactly what they are. Personally, I just like to use my ears.
Yeah.
And so we'll definitely flip through a few of those as we go.
So what's the default, or what's it set to right now for the speaker?
So right now what we're set to is just number one here, GB25. That'll be like a 25 watt greenback style speaker.
Cool.
Greenback.
So kind of classic for today's standard of deluxe reverb sound. So very much what I think most people are going to be familiar with.
Sounded familiar to
And
me.
what are the other options we got on there?
Right here, we've also got an Oxford speaker and an EV12.
Oh,
EV12s
very
actually are pretty cool. Gigantic magnets, super,
Right.
super heavy.
Yeah.
Common modification back in like the 70s and 80s.
Cool.
With
I
a
have
lot of
a
session
boogie
musicians.
with one of those, and the
Oh,
speaker,
yeah.
the speaker weighs like 30 pounds. I want to say, like it's insanely heavy, and it's like the cabinet, like it's a 112 cab, a hardwood cab, that weighed like 30 pounds or something. Once
Right.
that
God.
speaker went in there, it's heavier than like the head is now. It's
You
crazy.
don't like
Oh my
making it easy
goodness.
for yourself, do you?
But they're rated what, like 200 watts or something. Like it's super efficient. So
The
I imagine
headroom
that
is
that would sound
insane.
very, very different, right?
In fact, we can switch right over to it. What I'm going to do here is, actually, I'm going to save this sound real quick. That's
Oh.
another thing we can do with this middle switch here. If I basically hold the switch down into store mode there, you're going to notice this preset light blinking.
Okay.
That's going to mean that we just saved that to the preset switch here.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Done. Now we can come back to that sound anytime.
Okay.
So
I'm
we'll
gonna
store
go-
like one preset.
So it'll store one preset on the hardware at any given time.
Okay.
There is a whole other rabbit hole where we probably won't go down today, but there is a whole entire app system where you can get in there
Store
and
more.
fine tune, store a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
It's called UA Control. It's free on Android and Apple devices and everything. You pair up to these things via Bluetooth, and then you can store a bunch of presets on your phone.
Mercy.
So now you have a whole library of hundreds and hundreds of presets. You can download other artists' presets.
Oh.
So like if you've got a particular artist you really like, there's an off chance that they've got a preset that they made. So if you kind of want to use the sound that they're using, I mean, hey, like you got to kind of practice to sound like them, but at least you can sound like
Sure.
you're plugged into their gear.
Are you allowed to name drop any such artists that may or may not have some presets?
I'm like 90% sure that the Edge from U2 would
Oh.
have a few here
That's-
because
Oh, he
from
must.
what I hear, he's using these pedals at their
At the
current
sphere thing he was using
yes,
these, right?
because they don't have any. Unfortunately, they don't have any live amps on stage, but these do such a convincing job that I mean, hey, that's quite the endorsement.
That's pretty good.
Do we know which one he was using there? Was it the
I believe he's actually
Ruby
using
or the
all
Lion?
of them.
Oh, all of them.
All of them and switching
At
between them
once?
for different songs.
Oh.
Sorry, not at once. I mean, I guess you could use all of them at once if you really wanted to, but
Let's do it.
I wouldn't do it yet, just
No.
yet. I'm going to turn the tremolo back off for now. So I've just
Okay.
switched to alt mode here, turn the tremolo off, switching back to amp mode. Going to turn our treble back up to about there.
Get ready.
One other cool thing on this particular one
Yeah.
is that this switch on the right here, on each of these, it does something a little bit different. In this case, up top it says mod.
It does say that.
And basically what that is it is a modification to the stock Fender sound. That's something that a lot of people through the 70s and the 80s were kind of doing, was going,
Okay.
yeah, my Fender amp's kind of cool, but like everybody's done that sound. What else can this thing do?
Sure.
So in the middle here, it says stock. So in this case, unmodified.
That's good.
If I use the boost here, if I turn this up, it's just going to give us a clean boost right at the front of the amp. So I'll start off. If you want to start playing, I'm going to
Sure.
start turning it up a little bit.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
And is that boost based on any particular boost pedal or anything?
So that is a straight ahead clean boost going straight in the front of the amplifier.
Yeah.
So there's essentially nothing going on there. It is just more of what's going into the pedal going into the front end of the amplifier. So it's not like a post gain boost. It's actually happening before the gain stage. So it's, as you might have noticed,
Okay.
as we turned up,
Yeah.
it gave us a little bit more overdrive.
It gave a little more overdrive.
Totally.
Yeah. Just a little bit. It was like, it made me want to dig into it a little bit more. That's, kind of what I felt like.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if we flip it up here, what we're going to get is a lead mod.
Oh.
And so what happens when when you modify it for lead is one thing that happens, they pull the bright cap out of the amplifier. So you'll notice.
Bright cap.
Yeah, start playing a little bit, and then I'll turn the boost on just a little bit. Might have noticed very subtly, it got just a little bit warmer.
It did get a little warmer in there. I thought maybe because the AC was off.
Right?
I'm sorry.
So that was just a little bit. If that gets cranked up, is it going to get really dirty?
Totally. So basically, this is a very mid-range kind of boost at the front end of the amplifier. This was kind of a popular modification back in the 70s. Maybe kind of what we might call D-style amplifiers.
D-style amplifiers?
Very sought after, hundreds of thousands of dollars amplifiers.
Oh.
Turn your deluxe into
I
a
get
double.
it.
Yeah.
There it is.
That type of thing.
Really dancing around the things here.
Just a little bit.
It's a guessing game for you, dear
Oh,
viewer.
we could have brought our dumbles in to compare.
Oh,
Had
yeah.
we
Right.
known.
Well, which one should I have brought in? Because
I mean, you could have brought both of them.
I guess I could have, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just pack them up into the back of my Lamborghini.
Next
Front
time.
of my Lamborghini? Oh, no.
Good luck fitting anything into a Lamborghini,
Exactly. That's
let alone a dumble.
isn't it? Which is the major car? I'm gonna go off course for a little bit here. Well, there's a car like a high-end Lamborghini or Ferrari. They got the engine is actually in the back of the vehicle, I believe.
Porsche.
Maybe
A lot of
it's Porsche.
Porsches are in the back.
Yeah.
If we don't know, drop it in the comments because y'all know. Let's move on to the next.
Then you lift up the hood, and you put like in the hood is where you put your luggage.
You put your dumbbells in the hood.
That's right.
Dumbbells in the hood.
Dude, that's like the name of my next project.
It's gonna be my swanky blues project with very expensive
Yes.
gear.
So,
Anyway,
So
we
what I've
digress.
done here, I've basically just turned up the boost a little bit.
All right.
Or by a little bit, I mean a lot. And
like a
so,
lot.
Totally. Everybody likes a lot, right? So this is going to give us much more mid-range going into the front end of the amplifier,
Okay.
and it's definitely going to be a bit more of a saturated kind of tone.
sure.
So this is definitely going to give us a little bit more of that overdriven kind of character.
Crispy times, eh? Okay.
let's hear it.
Well, I don't really know. I'm on the neck pickup here as well because I just like the way it is on Telecasters. That sounds sweet, though.
Who even
That's
needs
cool.
an overdrive pedal anyway?
I mean,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like all overdrives are doing is trying to replicate what this is already doing, like what a blasted amp, right? Like
Blasted.
blasted,
exactly
This
it.
blasted amps.
Except this is emulating exactly what the amp would do if
Yeah.
you had that overdrive mod built right into it.
Which is great because to get that kind of tone out of like a Fender quote unquote clean amp,
Quote unquote.
quote unquote, big ol' air quotes, you'd have to turn that sucker up like all the way and we'd be deaf. But we are not deaf
Right?
Very simple.
Exactly.
yet. Before we move on to the next pedal, I think we're just going to take a quick little reset some things
that's
here.
A perfect time to transition. We'll take
Yeah.
a break for our many sponsors.
Maybe
and,
let this guy play guitar when we get back. He's better than me.
Right on. Then we'll move on to the next pedal. Cool. Right back after this.
The usual, sir?
Please.
Even after 500 plays, our high-fidelity tape still delivers high fidelity. it's worth it.
And we're rolling.
Recording on here.
All right.
All right.
Rockin'.
So we've had a good run through of the Dream 65. Let's move on to the other Fender territory with the Woodrow. Check out what this one sounds like.
The totally different kind of deluxe. The one that is not at all the same.
So different, eh?
Right?
It's even got that little like rattle kind of going on to it. I
Exactly.
assume that's intentional.
It's got that little bit of a woody tone to it.
Yeah.
The 5E3 thing is very much a raw, kind of almost swampy. Like, it's got so much harmonic character to it that it almost sounds like it's all going to fall apart at any second.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the beauty of it. It was the original kind of... It wasn't a particularly high-fidelity sound.
No.
I mean, this is back at the sort of... Not quite the birth of, but almost the birth of guitar amplification in general. So that's kind of this thing in a nutshell.
It lives.
What we're
Are we
working
kind
with
of
here...
roughly noonish again? to
Yeah,
start?
we're kind of just slightly above noon. Basically, you've got an instrument volume here, a tone here. What I don't have on yet is mic volume. And this thing works in a very interactive way between instrument, mic, and tone. You're going to get all different flavors of overdrive, low-end content, that kind of upper mid-range bite and bark. So we'll kind of start messing around with these.
So as you dial that in, is that like putting like the jumper cable in onto the amp there, and you get both of them kind of working together?
You've got it.
Sweet.
Exactly.
All
Originally,
right.
these things would have had 2 channels with different inputs and everything. But if you connected a cable, you could jump them together and use them at the same time.
All right,
This is
let's
done
do it.
internally in this case. Right
Cool.
on.
Yeah, it sounds like a little amp that you got kind of juiced up and
Absolutely.
starting to go off the rails a little bit. Not
Yeah.
totally yet.
Totally. Now, one thing that you might notice, of course, there's not quite as much going on as with the Dream, because frankly, Tweed amps were a lot simpler.
Yeah.
But what you
No
do
reverb,
still have here...
no trim.
Yeah, well, actually, so no trim, but instead of reverb, because of course this thing wouldn't have had reverb built in, what we do have here is a room simulation. As I was kind of alluding to before, the room sound that you're getting here is actually derived from the aux box thing. In fact, all of these cab models that we're working with are derived from the aux box. And so the room sound is also derived from the aux box. And rather than a traditional room reverb being applied to the sound of the amp that you're working with, it's the sound of room microphones.
Oh, okay.
So it's as if you've got mics in the room with the cabinet that is moving air. It's a much more nuanced thing. So we'll start turning
check
that
it
up a
out.
little bit.
Sure. Give her.
A little volume would help.
There she goes.
Yeah,
Wow.
little quick reflections in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Just hinting at reverb, you know?
It gives you this nice sense of space, but not so much that it gets in the way.
No.
It almost just feels like a natural part of the sound.
Makes it a little less like direct sounding too. Like doesn't sound like
Exactly.
you're like plugged just straight into your ears or something. You know, it's
Yeah.
Totally.
gives that room sound, and that's about halfway.
You've got it.
So as it goes
we're-
up, does it make the room seem a little bigger or like
It
longer?
can.
Or
Let's
what
give
does
that
it
a
do?
shot. It'll definitely sound louder.
Okay.
Like even cranked, that's not quite overbearing. It
Yeah.
just blends so perfectly into the sound because, again,
Nice.
it is actually a simulation of the room that cabinet is mic'd up in.
Yeah. Is that a particular room? Like, is that a silly question? Like,
That's a great question, actually. There's some speculation of what room it actually is.
Very
There's
specific
been no
room.
confirmation of which exact room it is. It may be a studio associated with Universal Audio.
okay, I wouldn't know that. I was getting like looking at the vintage vibe of the pedal. I was thinking like Muscle Shoals or something, but
Right.
It's the bathroom in Neil Young's house.
knew it.
We figured it out, guys.
And speaking of, so will this do like full-on cranked up Neil Young mode if we just like
Oh,
crank
yeah.
everything?
So now, if we go into, just for example here, what you have here instead of the mod that we had before on the Dream, you have some different boosts.
Okay.
So what you have here is stock, which again is a very much
Stock.
clean boost
Yeah.
It's so stock sounding though.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the KP3K, and that is based on an old Korg Echo. So basically like the digital units that had a full built-in preamp and everything. Very famously used by the Edge, of course.
Okay.
But then if you go into EP3 mode, that's kind of more like an Echoplex style thing.
Oh,
Right.
fun.
So I'm
The Jimmy
thinking,
Page thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm thinking if we switch down to that
Okay.
and we start to crank the boost up a little bit, we're going to get something a little bit Neil Young-ish.
Okay.
I'm going to switch the speaker in this case as well. I'm going to switch over to a JP12, which would be based on a Jensen Alnico speaker. That should give us even a little bit more chime in the top end, a little bit more bite. And let's see what we're cooking with. I'll start
Gimme.
turning the boost up a little.
Let's start cooking. All right.
There
Wow.
we
Now
go.
we're talking.
A sound that would normally be earably loud, not to mention ridiculously expensive, and on the edge of just blowing up, in something that is going to do none of those things.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Ultimate cosmic sound, itty bitty
Very
living
cool.
space.
Right?
So
Yeah.
if we hop over the pond to the Ruby, this
Yes.
is the like AC30 sort of vibe.
Yeah.
You've got it.
Okay.
Totally. We'll do a little switch here.
A wee bit of a switch there.
Switch accents.
Yeah, no, it's what we want the pond, didn't we, mate? So, you know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
The
if
entire
anybody's
time,
British
the
watching.
entire time we're on the British pedals, you have to use the British accent.
Oh, blimey.
I wouldn't even try.
No.
All right, are we on? Oh,
We are
this feels
on.
different already.
The solo from Bohemian Rhapsody.
It sounds completely different. It feels completely different too. That's interesting thing I find with these pedals. Like, even though we're going into an interface, into a computer, and for the audience, we're actually hearing the playback through some PA speakers, like full range PA speakers. It feels more or less like I'm plugged into an amp, like the way the guitar responds with it. It's got that going on, and it's drastically different when we went from the Woodrow to this Ruby. All of a sudden, the cabinet feels bigger, even though there's no cabinet in the room here. I can't see a cabinet, but just as I'm playing it, it just feels like girthier.
It's kind of amazing that you picked up on that too, because actually those previous two pedals we were playing were both modeling 112 cabs.
Yeah, you can
That's
see that
kind of
right
what
away.
they're built in with.
I'm
And
assuming
that,
this is a 212.
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No,
Very
it's
much
not my first
like what
rodeo.
this kind of Vox thing would be plugged into.
That's cool.
And now on this one, we're not quite at noon. I did set everything to about 2 o'clock, as is tradition with some pedals. But, if we were to set everything to noon, you'd still get a pretty satisfying tone. But you might notice we do also have the control layout of a Vox-style amp here. So right up top, you've got a cut control. And turning that up is actually what's going to cut your high frequencies. Got
cool.
much more of that classic chime as we kind of let off the cut control there.
Yeah.
And interestingly as well, of course, we've got the bass and treble controls here, which are highly interactive with the gain circuit in this amplifier.
That's right.
Like, for example, if I turn the bass down a little bit, it's going to feel a lot less flubby. And turn the treble
that's
up,
good.
it
I
might
hate,
even...
hate flubby.
Right?
Don't you hate flubby?
Yeah, I hate a little flubby song. I don't know, actually, I got a soft spot for some flubby.
There we go.
Flub man. It's definitely tighter.
It feels,
yeah.
it can definitely feel a number of different ways depending on how you set those bass and treble controls. Something I really appreciate about Vox amplifiers.
And does this one have tremolo like the Dream had?
Yes.
'Cause
However,
usually an AC30's got trem in there, right?
totally.
it
But
does.
something that we should talk about is the fact that instead of the mod or the boost circuit,
Right.
we now have a channel control.
My God.
Because if I were to try
What
and
will
do
they
anything,
think of next?
right? Basically, these old kind of Vox-style amplifiers had a few channels to them.
Like a normal top
Yeah.
boost thing?
You got it.
that's
So
the
right
one.
now we're in the Brilliant channel, which actually did
Brilliant.
not have
Brilliant.
any
Absolutely
vibrato
brilliant.
attached,
Oh, it didn't. Oh, that's
Okay.
not so brilliant,
Oh.
actually.
right? And so if we want a little bit of tremolo, what we're going to have to
we
do
do.
is we're going to have to switch over to the vibrato channel. When we do that, the bass and treble aren't going to do anything.
Okay.
Because the vibrato channel wouldn't actually have bass and treble controls to it.
Oh.
So let's just show you what that does.
They just couldn't give you everything back then.
They just couldn't. They weren't really thinking that far ahead. They were just thinking you'd only want one thing or the other.
Who
But
would possibly want a bass and treble control and a tremolo control?
I can't think of a world where.
preposterous.
Nobody. Absolutely nobody.
All right. Oh,
Oh,
Lord.
oh.
And
Very, like, pitchy and kind of warbly.
yeah.
Lovely.
Right on.
Lovely.
It's interesting that you picked up on that because Vox-style amplifiers kind of had more of what we would call a harmonic tremolo to them.
Yeah.
If we were to turn that intensity dial up, it will shift into more of a volume tremolo. But you were absolutely hearing a kind of harmonic tremolo. So it's not fully modulating volume so much as actual harmonics in the amplifier.
Okay. Well, this actually kind of harkens back to our previous conversation on what is tremolo.
That is true. That is
Right?
true. If you haven't watched that episode yet, make sure you watch it. The link is right here.
Hopefully. Do we have the technology? Okay.
If you want,
That was
we'll,
quite the episode.
Yeah.
Of
We
our
went
lives.
off. Well, these are the days of our lives.
That's cool.
So
So
if
that's
you
the Ruby. And then the last one we got the Lion.
totally,
The super lead. And this is the big Marshall 100-watt stack.
you've got it.
Right?
So we'll do a quick switch here.
Skaboom.
And this time around, I've got everything pretty much set to noon. Just the number one lead channel there, set to super bass mode. And we should
Super
be
bass.
rocking.
Not just bass.
Yeah, there's
Super
a
bass.
song by Duffy, I think. Super bass. I don't know. It's not really the type of music associated with this pedal.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, about that bass.
Yeah.
That boom ba doom
Boom
boom
ba doom
bass.
ba doom boom boom ba doom boom bass. The super bass.
Yeah. I think I know that kind
It
of
was
bass.
a huge hit, people. I don't know.
I don't know what kids
I
listen to.
doubt
these
there
days.
was a super bass Marshall-esque tone on that song. So let's hear some of that instead. Okay.
Kind of classic, and
Yeah.
with the super bass model, a lot cleaner.
Pretty clean, yep.
It's got that
Too
kind
clean.
of a little bit too clean.
Yeah, it's
well,
clean, a little
we can get a little bit more mean as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Oh,
Let's
we
get
want
So
mean.
we're going to switch over to lead mode here, because on this one we've actually got different models of super lead style in.
Lord.
So remaining, all the controls basically the same. All I've done is flip the switch over to super lead mode.
All right,
of
that
course.
sounded familiar.
Do you want me to get you a
start
Stratocaster?
In a perfect world, we could all have more than one guitar.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. They should work on like a guitar that does like what these do, but like the pickups they like come up and then they like retract like back into the body like a single coil. Yeah.
I have seen I've seen guitars.
Yeah.
They had that thing where there's like pickups that like roll, they flip over. I saw it at the NAMM show one time.
Oh wait, that's different.
I forget who made it, but like there's like it's in here, and then you like I don't know, flick a switch or button, and it flips over, and then there's like a different
Oh,
pickup.
and you get a single coil and a P90
Yeah.
and a
I don't know.
humbucker.
It was
all-
wacky.
It exists, people. My dreams have become reality.
I like having multiple
dreams. Okay.
All right, and what's
I'm
the other?
horny, and I'm proud.
What's the other one?
And
Oh,
then the last
brown.
one is brown sound. Now,
Oh, okay.
one other thing that we
Now we
haven't-
need a whole different guitar altogether.
Floyd Rose,
Right.
perhaps.
Exactly.
one other thing that we haven't really experimented with yet is that we do actually have two blendable channels here.
Indeed.
Right.
Basically, channel one is more of a bright channel.
Yeah.
The other one is more of a normal channel.
So same idea with the Woodrow. It's like putting the jumper cable on the front and engaging both channels at the
Exactly.
same time, getting a little more juice out of the amp.
Totally. Now, in theory, in the super lead mode here, we can get a very lead heavy kind of sound.
Yeah, let's get
And then
that.
brown
yes.
sound will take us the rest of the way there.
Uh-oh.
Scared.
Nice.
Cool. Now, I find with that, even though the treble is up quite high,
Yeah.
it seems like the treble's like not really there at all
Well,
because we've got
that's
the front end kind of cranked up, right?
totally. Yeah, that's absolutely something cool about super lead amplifiers. I mean, if you have them cranked way, way up, they're way smoother than a lot of people would give them credit
Yeah,
for.
totally.
It's just that generally speaking, you cannot take a 100-watt amplifier and turn the knobs that high. Absolutely anywhere.
You can, but
Says who?
But here, you
Says who?
absolutely
Come on.
can. And so now, if we switch it down into brown sound mode, basically what that is going to do is give us that classic kind of late 70s modded Marshall sound, where you're basically pulling some juice out of the amplifier
Okay.
to make the tubes themselves work a whole heck of a lot harder.
Work harder, damn it.
Right? It's going to be a lot
lazy
lot
pedal.
saggier, a lot more compressed. Let's give that a whirl.
Saggy but not flubby.
Saggy but not flubby.
Yeah, we like that. Sure.
And I feel like what the people are going to want is even a little bit more. So this does.
Wait, there's more?
There is more.
Oh wait, there's more.
This does have an alt switch just like the other ones, and in this case, you get some boost, you get some room, and you even get some presence.
Wow.
So let's brighten it up with
It's
the
like
presence
Christmas.
control here.
Buy now and get this
Let's
bilingual cheese grater.
Slam it with a bit of boost. Oh, I can hear the noise.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're in good hands here.
All right.
And just like that, I think we should be rocking and rolling.
Well, we'll see about that. Yeah, there's more
There's
Nice.
more.
of everything.
It's like, honestly, you could just plug your guitar straight into that and have a good time. Who even needs anything else, really?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And with the room in there, it kind of feels like it's moved away from you somehow.
Yeah, it does
I
give
feel
you that
a little
sense
further
of,
from the amp, whereas before it was like the amp's right here. Now it's like out there a bit.
it almost gives you that little bit more of a kind of like you're in a larger space with this huge amplifier that's cranked up. That might be exactly the effect that you'd want to go for. But if you need
Well,
to
of course
tighten it
it
up,
is.
and right?
Of course. What else would you want?
Exactly. If you got to tighten up the mix a little bit, though, you can just pull that room sound out of there, and just there you go. There's your direct kind of super hot, super lead sound.
Super hot, super lead.
There we
All
go.
right,
Let's get some
cool.
of that hiss away.
So we've heard sort of what these pedals kind of each do, and we've been hearing them through the interface into the computer. But that's not the only way we can use these. For the next segment, I think we will dig into alternate ways that you, the user at home, can plug this in and get the most out of these pedals. We'll be right back.
Segment 3, and we return to you now. What was the plan here? We're going to get you, the audience, I think hearing...
We're going to get the audience involved now.
Yeah!
Come on in.
Yeah, so basically...
We are, basically, because we're going to give the audience the room sound of what
Right.
we've been hearing, because they've been hearing the direct sound of the computer as if you're recording your guitar, which is a great way to use this. Use your guitar into the pedal of your choice, into your interface, you get that sort of sound. But another way, a very popular way to use it, and I think this is the way the Edge would have been using it at the Sphere, I think, is where you're plugged into the pedal, and then the pedal is going straight into a PA system.
Exactly. So
Or the
there's a
loudspeakers.
number of different ways that you can use these things, and the common ways, like I was kind of alluding to before, it's the whole amp signal chain,
Yeah.
and so a couple of ways
Whole
to use
enchilada.
it. Totally. You can record that direct, or go straight into the front of house in a PA system. So we'll show you guys a little bit about what that sounds like. We're going straight back to the Dream here, and yeah,
Dream
we'll,
sequence.
I don't think we haven't heard the Dream through anything except for this Telecaster yet. But I mean, come on. It's a Fender amp.
perfect.
It's a Telecaster. It's a Fender guitar.
Cool.
What are you going to do?
All right, let's check it out.
Okay.
Is it on?
I don't know. My volume's up and I'm getting...
There you go.
There we go. Okay, cool.
You can really hear the reverb, like,
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Even through a PA system, like that actually feels very, very similar to an amplifier.
It really does. I mean, this is the thing that's kind of blown me away. You guys have been hearing the DAW sound the whole time. We've been hearing this, so I'm trying to act surprised. But the act is a sham. It sounds really good. Like, again, I said it the first time, but yeah, it feels like playing through an amp, which is awesome.
even though you're playing through a box.
I am playing through a box.
It's like it's an
Yeah.
amp in a box. So you can plug your guitar, let's say, like into the Dream, and then like nothing else. just straight into a PA?
Front of house.
Well, so that's the thing is you may be asking, well, I don't have
We
any
are
PAs.
asking.
I don't have a PA. What do I do, Noah?
Right.
So
What
there
do we
are
do?
other ways that you can use these. Absolutely. And so one way that I want to show you guys, if you happen to have a guitar amplifier of some
Oh,
kind.
we just might.
I know I was mentioning that these are the whole amplifier. But you can actually disable the part that comes after the amplifier, the whole speaker, microphone, all that jazz.
Okay.
You can take that all out of the loop, plug these straight into a guitar amplifier, plug these into your effects loop if you want to get it even cleaner. But
Right.
if you just have a good, clean guitar amp,
Sure.
you can definitely plug into that.
Cool.
So we'll show you guys how.
Okay,
We
let's
could
do
do
it.
that. We could.
So next scenario. So
we
now
are back.
we're going into, we got the Lion we're going to use here. So this time we've got the speaker simulation turned off on this, right?
So we're actually going to turn it off right now, or well, actually, let's try it both ways.
Sure.
Because I
Wait,
think some
we can
people-
have it both ways?
You can have it both ways.
Tapestry music. You can have it both ways.
So right now, basically what we're doing is I've got the cab simulation actually on.
On.
Okay.
So you'll notice because this little red light here is telling us we are on a cabinet right now.
Did notice that, yeah.
And you may be saying, turning off my cab simulation sounds really, really complicated, and oftentimes in digital solutions, it is. Here's how you do it with these universal audio pedals. I'm going to flip this switch up.
Kabam. So
Done.
now,
No lights on, no cab simulation.
nobody's home.
You're right, it is complicated.
Oh,
For now,
man.
though, let's turn it on and see kind of how this sounds. We're just plugged straight
Yeah.
into the effects return of an amplifier.
So
Now,
we got
in
this
theory,
Revv G20 here that we're not going in the front of the amp. We're actually in the back of the amp in the effects return, and then coming out of this cabinet here, the 112 cab.
so basically what you're going to have right now is a dead clean sound because the pedal's not even on. So in theory, you could also do this trick with just a clean amplifier.
Okay. Or a bass amp or an acoustic amp or whatever you got lying around. So here's our dead clean.
That's as clean as clean will ever be,
White bread.
right?
Yeah.
It's white bread level clean.
No mayonnaise.
not even
Like
sliced.
stale white
It's-
bread. Though. It's
Let's
stale.
put some Miracle Whip on it, shall we?
So right now we've got cab simulation turned on,
Okay.
but we are going to turn on the line.
All right.
So technically, there's no rules against doing that. But you might, as the listener, notice it's a bit muddy. It's a bit all
Yeah.
over the place because the thing
sloppy.
is,
I feel like
you're
it's like
basically-
kind of trying too hard right now.
Exactly, because you're getting the sound of microphones and a cabinet going into a cabinet and microphones.
It's a little
Double
redundant, even.
It is a little bit, and so
All right,
we're going
let's
to
turn
do
it
that
off.
little magical
Okay.
turn the
Turn
cab
that thing off.
simulation off and
Oop.
see what that sounds like.
What does it sound like?
Way better.
Real.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's definitely that lot more direct. It just sounds like the sound of the amplifier, but now coming out of a
Yeah.
totally different speaker cabinet.
Wild. That's
Um,
really cool.
And so if you've got a good clean amp at home,
Sure.
you could totally just use this as a killer preamp.
Yeah.
Going into your amplifier to give it a different flavor. Maybe you've got a backline amplifier you're going to use at a gig or at lessons or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know
can-
what you're going to get. And
Yeah.
This could level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah.
Exactly. It gives you a number of different ways that you can use it.
But does it like effectively if you just have like a speaker cabinet? Like, same deal? Like,
Yeah, so now if you only have a speaker cabinet, that's the thing. This is only sending so much level, which a speaker cabinet needs voltage.
Yes, indeed.
If you just plug an instrument into a speaker cabinet, it does nothing.
Yeah,
And
nothing.
Same thing
Yeah.
here. So if you have a speaker cabinet, you're going to need some kind of amplifier to power it up. So you could use some just clean power amp solutions,
Okay.
for example.
There you go.
But chances are what you have at home is a guitar amp.
Yeah.
And that is how you could use this with a guitar amp as an example.
Well, hot diggity.
And we were talking about maybe using with an acoustic amp,
Sure.
too. I mean, that's probably the cleanest thing out there. I mean, anytime I've plugged an electric guitar into an acoustic amp, it's one of the cringiest sounds. It is brutal.
It's dry.
So I'm curious to see, will this turn an acoustic amp into a pleasant electric guitar sound?
Well, let's take a look.
Let's find out. Let's hook up an acoustic amp, and we'll give the Ruby a try. So
Awesome.
coming up next, acoustic amp salvation. All right, scenario 3. We're plugged into an acoustic amp.
An acoustic guitar amp. Some of you might have friends with a jam space. Some of you might even have a jam space of your own. And you might have someone who can fix you up with an acoustic amp, a keyboard amp, or a drum amp.
Oh.
All of those things are kind of effectively similar to a full range PA. They're significantly lower power and they don't have the same kind of headroom, but because they're kind of doing the same job as a full range PA is meant to do, these actually work pretty well into all of those kinds of amplifiers as well.
Okay.
So what we've done is we've just plugged straight into the front end of this acoustic amplifier here. And if you play an electric guitar straight into an acoustic amp, it doesn't sound all that good, as we can demonstrate if you dare.
Blasphemy.
Ready?
Sounds good.
If you like it clean, that's real clean.
It's nasty.
It's not quite the kind of clean I go for.
Nasty, but we engage our Ruby here. Let's check this out.
There we go.
It's a lot friendlier.
That's that little bit more of that semi-clean thing I kind of expect an electric guitar amplifier to do.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got our little bit of room in there and everything too. Like any of the effects, obviously, you can turn them on and off and get them through the acoustic guitar amplifier.
Jeez.
So this will totally apply to whatever jam space amp you've got.
That's
if
cool.
it's as close to a full range PA as you can get.
Wow.
I can see that being useful too, because you've got, you know, those gigs where you're playing like predominantly an acoustic, but you've
Right.
got to play electric for maybe like one or two songs.
okay,
But you don't
yeah.
want to bring a full electric rig and an acoustic rig. You're like, okay, I'm mostly playing the acoustic,
Right.
and I want the acoustic to sound good through my acoustic amp, so I'll bring that. But then for those like two songs that you're using electric, you can just use this in front of that amp, and it'll do the
Yes.
job.
And it'll sound so much better than plugging an overdrive pedal into your acoustic amp.
Yeah.
Or those situations where you're like a jazz fusion guy and you got on a bill where you're opening up for a singer-songwriter and they said, oh yeah, we got an amp situation covered.
And it turns out when you get there that all they got is an acoustic amp. You bring along your Ruby or any of these UA products, might be okay.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
It's out there, but it could happen.
All right, so this is 3 good ways that you can use this in the real world. We've got a 4th one that we're going to try just because we can.
There's a 4th one?
There's a 4th one. This
Dear
is coffee
God.
and pedals, so we just got to be a little silly. So we're going to try plugging the UA pedal, I think we'll do the Woodrow,
Okay.
into a Bluetooth speaker.
Oh, Lord. Oh, yeah.
A Bluetooth speaker. And
Well-
a small one at that.
No.
Yep, we're going to use this little guy here.
Oh, my goodness.
So let's hook up this little Bluetooth speaker, and that'll be the next one you guys are going to hear. It might be magic, it might be tragic, but we're about to find out.
I'm scared.
That's kind of awesome.
There we go.
Okay, let's do it. This is...
We're rolling? Okay, last but not least, just to see if we could do it, and we realized that we probably should have plugged it in earlier just to test if it did work. But turns out it does, which is awesome. We are plugged into this tiny little Bluetooth speaker. Now this one has an aux jack in it, which is allowing us to do this with a little mono adapter into the Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
So if you've got any of these type of devices at home, like if it's a Bluetooth speaker or like an Alexa or a Google dongle, whatever they're called,
thing.
Probably even your home stereo, I guess, if you wanted to.
Maybe even your car stereo.
Maybe even,
Oh.
yeah, if you've got an aux plug-in in your car stereo. That's, okay, we got one more to show you. That's gonna be a car stereo. We're gonna use your car, though, okay?
Oh yeah, totally. We'll just crank it right up, blow the amp, and it's all good. Typically, if it has an aux jack, it is a full range PA speaker. In a way, it's certainly not flat response.
Very small one.
And so currently we've got the Woodrow with, just for fun, I mean pretty much all the knobs all the way up except for output. Because why not get the grungiest possible sound out of this
Oh
thing?
yeah, it's great.
Low
So here
five,
we are.
baby.
We got the Guild Polera plugged into the UA Woodrow, plugged into this little random Bluetooth speaker.
So really get you that Soundgarden tone.
It'd be a cool thing to layer. Let's see what happens. Well, it works.
There it is.
Holy smokes.
Your mileage may vary depending on size of speaker, but I mean, hey, through a little one like this, that is a sound for some kind of song.
It is sometimes
Just
the
for
size
reference.
that counts, actually.
There's how big this thing is. Tiny little guy.
It's
Very cool.
grungy, it's lo-fi, like, I don't know, it's super garagey, I don't know, like if Ty Segal's watching this, maybe.
Pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, I'd like to thank Noah for coming out, walking us through these pedals, showing us a variety of ways, practical, less practical, or maybe that's more practical. I don't know. A lot of different ways you can
Certainly
use these.
unconventional.
Certainly unconventional, yes, which is what we love here on Coffee and Pedals. We love unconvention. If that's
We do not stand on convention.
no convention. So that's very cool. Thanks for coming out and showing us all this stuff. Without your expertise, this would have been much more difficult task for us with our gorilla hands and lack of experience here. So this is very cool. They're actually quite easy to use pedals. I'm impressed with the sound, like and more the feel. Like I'm not plugged into an amp, but I feel like I'm plugged into an amp.
Yeah.
It's
That's
pretty cool.
That's kind of what stuck out to me the first time I ever plugged into one. Was just within about 30 seconds, I was like, "That's what
Great
I
sounds.
expect to sound like when I plug into this style of amp. It's that analog thing,
Yeah.
Totally.
Plus you don't throw your back out from hauling around big heavy amps.
right?"
There we go. What's not to love about that? So thanks everyone for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Big cheers to Noah from Yorkville for bringing these out. And we'll see you all next time. Gonna keep rocking out with the Woodrow and this little Bluetooth speaker because this is just so fun. Thank you. Good night.